Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Make Life Less Taxing podcast, the show where we uncover what really creates freedom in life and business, and we'll explore stories of those who've learned how to build wealth with purpose.
Welcome back to the Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Today, I'm joined by Alan Porter, founder of Strategic Wealth Strategies, a firm that helps clients eliminate unnecessary taxes and build smarter retirement income with less risk and more control. Alan, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Alan, can you share a little bit about who you are and the type of work that you do today?
Well, I tell you what, Daniel, I never thought I'd be doing this. I retired in 1993. I was a Black Hawk instructor pilot for the Army, and I loved what I did. I had a passion for flying. I tell people I had a safe landing for every takeoff, and I dodged all the bullets. I had a great career. And when I retired in 1993, I had a successful real estate and mortgage business up till about 2008. But I've had some tragic things happen to my family. I live in Fayetteville, North Carolina. My son lived in Little Rock, Arkansas with his wife, Lynn. She was 39. And they had two little girls. They were 7 and 4. And we went down there for Christmas in 2009. And my son had been 100% disabled for over 3 years and still not getting any disability. Hired an attorney, finally got disability in the summer of 2010. But the January 5th, 2010, changed my entire life. You already hear these stories about a day that will change your entire life. Well, this day changed my entire life. His wife, Lynn, called me. She said, Alan, I've been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and they've given me 6 months to live. Of course, we were devastated. But I was like 99% of everybody out there that thought life insurance was a death product, that you had to die to benefit from it. Well, little did I know, because there's no money coming in now other than what I'm helping with, but I don't know how long I can do that. But little did I know, she had a terminal illness rider on her life insurance policy, but let her access the death benefit, which was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, completely tax-free, which I was not aware of, for within 1 year diagnosis of this deadly disease. And if it had not been for that, Daniel, my son would be bankrupt, and it took a huge financial strain off of me. Well, she died a year later, so I moved my son back here with the two daughters. But my problems didn't end then. I have another daughter. I have another child. It's a daughter, and she had just given birth to my third grandson. And she's not a college nurse. Her husband's a doctor. And a month later, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was very bad. We didn't think she was going to live. Well, she's 12 years cancer-free right now. But in 2023, she contracted Graves' disease and thyroid eye condition. And there's only one treatment for it right now, and I hope I pronounce this right. It's called Tripeza. It's 8 infusions of this particular drug. And the first one was like $32,000. The last one was in May of 2023. It was almost $250,000. Well, the problem is the thyroid eye condition came back in January of 2024. She went to the doctor in February. The doctor said, Nicole, I'm sorry, but there's nothing we can do. So we tried to get her in a study at Duke. Nothing we can do until you go blind. That's what he said. I said, wow. What a prognosis. So we tried to get her in a study at Duke. She didn't qualify for it because she took the Tripeza, but we did get her in the Mayo Clinic in Rochester for about 4 days of consulting and testing. And they've got something, it's not even approved by insurance policy or insurance products or the insurance company. And it may be 50% effective. They don't know, but believe it or not, it's more expensive than the Tripeza. It's almost $500,000. And so she's living day to day in misery, slowly losing her sight. We're just praying something can be done for her. But this is what happened to my family. And when I started studying life insurance and life insurance product, cash value, life insurance, fixed and fixed indexed annuities, it changed my entire life because people don't know about this. 99% of the information that I tell people, CPAs, attorneys, and financial planners have no idea what I'm talking about. And now I used to have my Series 63 where I did asset center management, but I don't do that anymore, because I have a mental block against charging people a fee, whether I make money or not. But I have a team of people. Now, I'm not against a stock portfolio. Don't get me wrong. And I have a registered investment advisor that I work with that's part of my team. But I want to talk to people about especially when it comes to retirement. It's not about your rate of return. It's about distribution of your assets. And there's just simple things. There's so many things you can do while you're young before you get to retirement. Just like the 401k, Daniel, we've been inundated by the propaganda of Wall Street and fee-based advisors that the only way to save for your retirement is through a 401k or an IRA or some qualified plan or a stock portfolio. Well, first off, I asked people, I said, why do you contribute to a 401k? And they say, well, it's a tax deduction. I said, no, it's not. It's a tax compounder. We've got a $37 trillion deficit right now. And by 2035, we're expected to have a $65 trillion deficit. And our unfunded liabilities are over $217 trillion right now. We can't even afford to pay the interest on the loan. I said, so what do you think taxes are going to do? Do you think they're going to go down or going to go up? And people say, well, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket. I said, if taxes go up, you're not going to be in a lower tax bracket. I mean, since Trump took over, they extended his tax cuts. But in 2017, January 1st, 2026, if he had not gotten elected, the taxes would have gone back to what they were in 2017. And some people, not everybody in a 12% tax bracket, would have gone to the 25% tax bracket. That's over 100% increase. Now, not all tax brackets would increase that much, but all tax brackets would have increased. And people are not aware of this. But, I tell people, I said, you're compounding your problem there. And I said, do you realize the fees in your 401k? 58% of people don't even think there's a fee on their 401k. A 1% fee in a 401k over a 30-year period will reduce your income by 1/3. Now, this is the average fee in a 401k is 2.99%. That's not by me. That's by Forbes magazine and Lap Times. People are going to be left with half of their money, and they get hit with taxes anywhere from 20 to over 55%. And they're going to be out of money, and they're not prepared for it. The average 401k runs out of money in the 5th to the 7th year. And people are not prepared for anything in retirement. Have you ever heard of sequence of returns risk?
Yes, I have. But, why don't you go and share with that with our listeners? Yeah.
Okay, well, the vast majority of people I talk to have no idea what sequence returns risk is. And I have multimillionaire clients. And when I tell them about it, they're very, very unhappy that their advisors, they're supposed to be fiduciaries, have never told them about it. But let's say that you've got $1 million in a stock portfolio and you go to retire at age 65. They say a 4% distribution rate, which would be $40,000 a year, is a safe distribution rate to last for 30 years, indexed at 3% for inflation. Well, first off, that's not guaranteed. But let's say that you took that $40,000 out, and the first year you have a 10% loss in the market. Now you've got $1 million minus the 900,000, minus the 40,000 you took out, minus the fees. You pay that financial advisor whether you make money or not. And what happens if in 2008 happens again within 2 to 3 years, where you have a 38 to 52% loss in the market? You're going to be out of money in the 5th year. Basically, what sequence returns risk, and it will devastate your retirement, is if you have a loss in the market in the first 2 to 3 years of a 10 or 20-year period as compared to the last 2 to 3 years of a 10 or 20-year period, you're going to be out of money anywhere from the 5th to the 9th year. Again, people are not prepared for that. They're not prepared for the number one fear in retirement is running out of money before you run out of life. And if you got all your money in a stock portfolio, you can't protect yourself from that. It only compounds. What my products do, they protect you, they eliminate or mitigate all the risk in retirement that a stock portfolio, a bond portfolio, money market funds, mutual funds only compound. Other risk in retirement, Daniel, such as longevity risk, which is a risk multiplier. People are not prepared for long-term care. This has affected me personally. I'm 72. My brother is 75. And the State Patrol called his daughter up a couple of years ago, said, you need to pick your father up. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's very confused. Well, they caught him going down the interstate in the wrong direction. He's lucky he didn't kill himself and somebody else, but he had no idea what he was doing. Yeah. And let me tell you something. When you have to put one of your loved ones in a nursing home, that's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. But people aren't prepared for long-term care. Long-term care right now costs between $50,000 to $200,000 a year and goes up by 6% every year. And understand this, 70% of all Americans are going to need long-term care at some point in their life. 40% of all Americans between the ages of 18 and 64 on long-term care right now. And this is an age lab study by Dr. Pokorski at MIT University. If you are married at age 65, there is a 75% chance of either you or your spouse contacting or contracting Alzheimer's, dementia, or Parkinson's. The other thing that people aren't prepared for, Medicaid spend down, where the caregiver is really the victim of this. But let's say you have $2 million in your assets. And let's say, Daniel, you are the one that has Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. And if your spouse is taking care of you, well, what the government's going to do, they're going to seize all your assets to pay for your health care. The caregiver is going to be left with one car, one house, approximately $137,000 in a small subsistence allowance. And that's not the retirement she was planning on. And I'll give you a couple of examples. It wasn't my particular client, but this guy was working in a factory, and he was in corporate in that area of the factory in corporate, and he had a huge 401k. Well, he got divorced 25 years ago, and he got remarried, but he never changed the beneficiary forms. And guess when he died, guess what? His old wife, his ex-wife, got all the money. Now, a couple other stories. Had a couple. They just turned 70. They've got about $5 million in their assets. They wanted to travel the world and see their grandkids grow up and everything. Well, they've been gone for about a year. I think they're on a cruise or something. Their 42-year-old son, father of 4, died of a heart attack in his driveway, and his wife doesn't work. So guess what happens now? Grandma and grandpa got to take care of the kids. Another one, perfect example. You got a couple of 70-year-olds or 65-year-olds or 75-year-olds. They got a great retirement set up for them. 3 years down the road, one of them becomes afflicted with Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. Everything changes, but you have to have a plan for every contingency. If you don't have a plan, make one up. And if you do have a plan, you must update everything that you do yearly. Sometimes even more than that. You know, the birth of a child, a marriage or something like that, a divorce. I mean, I can't overemphasize enough. People need to check their beneficiaries forms, for one. But other risk in retirement, tax risk, government risk, market risk. You know, when I show people that I can protect them, I can eliminate or mitigate all these risks in retirement, just like long-term care. I can mitigate or completely eliminate it for pennies on the dollar of tax-free money. And people don't have no idea how it's done, but they need to be educated on it. Let me ask you this, Daniel. Have you ever heard of effective interest cost?
Do you know what? No, I'm not. Why don't you go and explain it?
Well, don't feel lonely, because most people don't. And explain this way, because I had this gentleman, he was 42 years old, 42 years of age. He was a referral of mine, and he just retired from the Army. And he'd seen my tax-free retirement using cash value life insurance. He wanted to do that. I asked him, I said, how much debt do you have? He says, well, Al, we bought a new house a couple months ago, have a couple of car payments, a loan, and a credit card. And I said, what's the interest rate on your mortgage? He said, 2.75. I said, that's pretty good. What's your effective interest cost on that? He says, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, fill this form out. We'll do a Zoom conference the following week. I said, you've got $461,000 in debt. That's not your problem. The problem is the 49.76 effective interest cost you're paying on your 2.75% mortgage. He said, Alan, how's that possible? I said, because it's not going to get down to the 2.75 until the last couple months of the mortgage. I said, you've got a credit card here that's over 90% effective interest cost. And most credit cards out there for people, if they don't pay the entire amount off, it's anywhere from 80 to over 95% effective interest cost. And I told this guy, I said, even though you've got great credit, your average effective interest cost is over 46%. So what that means is 46 cents of every dollar that you spend goes to compound interest for some financial institution and not for you. And I said, what financial vehicle are you investing in, your 401k or anything else, that gives you a 46% return on your money? He said, well, nothing. In fact, I lost 10% in my 401k last year. I said, you're putting $1,000 a month in that, aren't you? He said, yeah. I said, how long is it going to take you to pay your debts off the way you're doing it? He said, well, 20 some years because we're paying extra on the mortgage. I said, well, that's what a lot of people do. But let's take that $1,000 a month that you're paying in your 401k and put it into this tax-free bucket of money in a whole life insurance policy. And at the end of 10 years, it's paid for. You don't have to put any more money in this policy. It's a 10-year policy. We're going to use my Debt Free for Life program. We're paying your debts off 14.73 years faster. There's going to save you over $73,000 in interest. At the end of 10 years, there's over $130,000 in a tax-free bucket of money that you become your own bank. You'll never have to go to the bank to take money, get a loan for a car, college education for your kids. And the death benefit at that time is over $400,000. And I said, now, listen, I've been doing my own bank. I borrow for my life insurance. I haven't gone to the bank in 15 years. I borrow for myself. Now, understand this, Daniel. When you borrow from your life insurance policy, cash value, whether it's index or whole life policy, I have 8 of these policies. Your cash value, you have your cash value and you have your death benefit. Your cash value, when you borrow it, it doesn't come off your cash value. It's a lien against the death benefit. You don't even have to pay the loan back if you don't want to. But I'm paying myself back. And I'll give you a perfect example. Let's say I borrowed $40,000. I pay $1,000 a month for 40 months for this car, as an example. I said, now, instead of paying $1,000 a month to some financial institution at 0% interest, that money it's gone for me. It'll never compound for me, but it'll compound for the financial institution for years and years and years. But now that I'm paying myself back, my cash value continues to skyrocket because it'll be worth tens of thousands of dollars more than had I gone to the bank. And I told the guys, now understand this. You don't have to put any more money in this policy. I've showed you how to become your own bank. Your death benefit is $400,000 at this time. Your college kids, you don't have to worry about that because you can borrow from yourself, pay yourself back if you want to. So your college expenses are going to be covered. But by the time you're 65, there's going to be over $250,000 in this life insurance policy that's completely tax-free that you can use in policy loans to help supplement your retirement that does not affect the taxation of Social Security or the means testing for Medicare Part B, which will be in the thousands of dollars per year. Your CPA doesn't tell you about that. Your financial planner doesn't tell you about that because quite frankly, I don't think they know. And I said, you're protected from lawsuits, liens, and judgments. You're protected from probate. Do you understand what probate is?
Yeah. Well,
there's a lot of people that don't, but they all understand that. Most of them remember Prince the Entertainer that died 3 years ago, I think. His estate was worth millions of dollars. He had no plan. He had no exit plan, no will or trust set up. And what the government comes in and does, they confiscate all the assets and sell them to pay the taxes on the estate. That family is going to get probably 20, maybe 25% of that estate because they didn't have any protection plan. But it's really bad. Attorneys get 6 to 12% of that estate for legal fees. And I can protect people from this. But just with this one policy for him, when I told him they're at 65, now his death benefit's over $600,000. Now, we get all that, and this policy will eliminate or mitigate all the risk in retirement that a stock portfolio, again, money market funds, mutual funds, only compound. And he said, Alan, you made a dream of mine come true. But why don't people know this? And I told him, I said, it's not rocket science. It ought to be taught in high school. But Daniel, I've got doctors with PhD degrees in accounting and finance that have no idea what I'm talking about and ask me to teach their classes. And I'll gladly do it. But this is basic education. And that's what I do. I'm very, very passionate about what I do. I want to educate people to think outside the box of conventional financial planning. I have a team of people that I work with, Daniel, and what I mean by my people, they're specialists in their fields. And what I mean by a specialist, let's say I'm your family doctor. I can treat you for minor illnesses, minor injuries, but if you want your knee operated on, you want an orthopedic surgeon. He's the specialist, correct?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I have in my team, top tax-specific attorneys and CPAs and other specialists, and we collaborate together to come up with solutions for people's financial problems. And like I said, I teach people to think outside the box of conventional financial planning. I show people how to reduce and possibly eliminate both debt and taxes. I show them how to possibly set up a tax-free retirement plan protecting their family that will last for generations with tax-free money. I will eliminate or mitigate all the risk in retirement. And also I have healthcare plans that will save companies and individuals hundreds, if not millions of dollars in healthcare costs. But this is just a few of the things I do. I do asset protection, business exit strategies, charitable gifting. I'm doing a tax strategy right now that's available this year. This gentleman has paid $1.2 million in $2.1 million in taxes. And just with this one strategy, I'm going to get back $228,000 in taxes that he would have paid. Now, my strategy for next year for him, I had a client last month that I got back $2.2 million of taxes he's paid over the last 4 years through a tax strategy that I use in my team through XL Empire and the tax strategy people there. This is available basically for anybody, but they've got to know how to do it. You know, I'm a tax strategist. I'm a certified tax and business advisor also, and also a certified financial fiduciary. I don't give tax advice, but I'm a tax strategist along with my team. And we know as tax strategies that your CPA and attorney may know a little bit about or know nothing about, but if they know a little bit about it, they don't construct it right, it's going to be a disaster for you and for them. But that's what I want to do is I want to educate people on what's available out there, because there's millions upon millions of dollars lost in taxes that don't have to be paid. There's millions and millions of dollars that are lost in fees. And when I say this, I work with a lot of affluent clients. What I mean by affluent clients, making $5 million or more. And they all tell me, well, Alan, my CPA, my attorney, my financial advisor give me all my financial and tax advice. And I said, well, first off, I'm not here to replace any of your advisors. I want to work with them as a team to give you the best possible scenario. And it's up to you whether you want to work with me and work with us as a team, or if you just want to work with your present advisors. But I have two questions for you. I said, when's the last time any of your advisors give you any proactive advice on saving taxes? Daniel, it's slim to never. And I said, the other question I asked him, I said, you may have the greatest advisors in the world, but it's what they don't know that's going to end up costing you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on undue taxes, fees, and lost opportunity costs. And they said, well, Alan, you're absolutely right, but what do you mean by lost opportunity costs? I said, well, what if I could develop a tax-free retirement plan for you that's going to pay you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of tax-free money that'll eliminate all the risk in retirement, done through a tax strategy that I've done for you and paid for by taxes that you've already paid. Is that something you'd like to know? He said, absolutely right, Alan. I'd like to know that. How do you do that? I said, it's not how I do it. It's who I know that knows how to do it, and they're part of my team. But there's so much stuff out there, Daniel, that people have no idea about. Just like the strategy I talk. I've got a best-selling book right now on Amazon. It's my 9th book. It's Tax-Free Retirement Solution. And all these strategies that I'm talking about right now, there's a brief description in there about some of these strategies. I've spoken at Harvard. I've spoken at West Point. I think I've been published in about 1,587 publications across the United States. I've been on my site here. I've been on ABC, Fox, CW. I was a wealth advisor on Consumer News Network. This year, I was selected as one of the top 100 people in finance. And last year, I was selected for Who's Who in America for excellence in financial advice. But just different things that I've done because I want to build credibility and I want to build a trust between myself and my client. Now, understand, Daniel, I don't charge for my consultations. It's all about education. Now, if I have to get an attorney involved or something like that, I have to pay them for their time. But I'm paid by the insurance companies. I'm paid very well. But what I want to do, and I'm very passionate about it, is I want to educate people on what's available out there, because there's a lot more out there than just a stock portfolio or real estate or gas and oil well development. things like that. But they don't know. Well, it's like I said, if you thought something was true now and turned out not to be true, when would you want to find out about it? And they said, well, obviously immediately. And it's just like when I talk to people about cash value life insurance. Now, there used to be only one line, and that was the bottom line. That was set by the actuaries of the insurance company. And I asked people, I said, would you rather spend $1,000 a year or $10,000 a year for a $500,000 death benefit? Well, they all come back and say, well, it's $1,000 a year, Alan. I said, I understand that because it's cheaper, correct? Yes. I said, but here's the thing. If you live one day past life expectancy, there's zero cash value. There's no cash value at all in that policy. It's just like long-term care insurance. All insurance products are great. They protect the family. But if you buy long-term care insurance at 60 and you die in your sleep at 75, and it's very expensive, there's no cash value in that. But let's get back to the explanation I was given. The wealthy, the banks, the people who knew the tax codes, the politicians, they would put hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars into these policies for a $500,000 death benefit. Well, you don't need that money to get the death benefit, but all this money is growing tax deferred, and they're getting their distributions tax free. And the government said, oh my God, we're losing too much revenue. So in the late 1980s, they put a line in there. And if you put more money than what the government allows into a life insurance policy, it becomes a modified endowment contract, and you lose all your tax advantages. So what I do is I take my policies and build a maximum efficient contract where I will put the least amount of insurance and the most money to grow your cash value. Now, if you take that term policy and pay on it, because it increases, the premiums increase the older you get, you may have the same amount of money in that term policy as you do in a cash value, whether it's a whole life or index universal life, by the time you reach life expectancy. But again, if you live one day past life expectancy in that term life insurance policy, there's zero cash value. But if you have a cash value life insurance policy, that death benefit may be $1.5 million, and you got $800,000 or $900,000 that you become your own bank. And again, getting back to why people contribute to the 401k, they say it's a tax deduction. Well, in certain cases, in a defined benefit plan, I can make an insurance policy a tax deduction. And then what grows tax deferred? They say, well, my 401k, my IRA. Well, so does cash value life insurance. What about tax-free distributions? They all come back, say my Roth products, my Roth IRA, my Roth 401k, municipal and educational bonds. I said, no, you're completely wrong. I said, because municipal and educational bonds, if you buy those bonds other than a state where you reside, you have e-state taxes to pay. If your state's large enough, you have state taxes to pay. And they both affect the taxation of Social Security and the means testing for Medicare Part B. There's only two financial products that do not affect the taxation of Social Security or Medicare Part B that I know of. And that's cash value life insurance or your Roth products. But I'll give you a perfect example. In today's tax standards, if you're married at age 65 and you make more than $44,000 a year of outside provisional income, 85% of your Social Security is going to be taxed. All right. And you make $3,000 a month in Social Security. What that's going to do, that's going to put you in the 12% minimum tax bracket because we have a progressive tax system. It's 10.13 effective tax bracket. Daniel, provided taxes don't go up, you're writing a check to Uncle Sam for over $6,000 a year, and your means testing for Medicare Part B can go up over 350%. The other thing that people are not prepared for, especially affluent clients, are IRMA taxes, which it'll be another thousands of dollars per year of taxes they're not expecting. But I can protect people from all of these taxes and guarantee their income. And like I said, it's not about rate of return on retirement. It's about distribution of your assets. Now, there's three types of annuities. There's variable annuities, which I have nothing to do with because they're tied to the market and their fees are very high. In life insurance products, whether it's fixed index annuities or cash value life insurance, you're guaranteed by contract never to have a loss due to a market downturn. We use indexing strategies such as the S&P 500 index, the Barclays Dynamic Balance Index, the Euro Index. There's 175 different indices out there, each one for the different insurance company. And I said, I'd much rather have a zero floor because I'm guaranteed to never lose and only get 70 to 75%, possibly even more of a indexing strategy gain. You may not get the whole thing, but you're never going to have a loss. And the other thing that people don't understand, Daniel, if you have a 50% loss in the market, it takes 100% gain just to get back to even. But let's get back to that example of that $1 million in a stock portfolio at $40,000 a year. Do you realize at age 65 that you only need approximately $650,000 of that stock portfolio in a certain fixed indexed annuity to give you the same $40,000 a year? That's guaranteed not to 95, not for 30 years, up to age 120. If you have a spouse, both of you can be on there. The distribution's 0.5% less, but the insurance company is insuring two different lives. Now get a load of this. If that accumulation value runs out in that annuity, the insurance companies by contract have to pay you until age 120 or until whenever you die. And here's something else. When these indexing strategies go up, even when you annuitize and start taking money out of the for the annuity, if you get an increase in the indexing strategy, you're going to increase in your pay, and that's locked in every year. So think about that. You're getting an increase in income from a decreasing asset. You can't do that with stock portfolio. And the older you get, the higher the distribution rate. And that leaves you $350,000 to pay the taxes on it, to make it a Roth that doesn't have no required minimum distribution. You understand what that is, correct?
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of people who don't. And I had a millionaire that had $1 million in an IRA. He's 65 years of age. He didn't know what the required minimum distribution was. And I said, what are you going to do with that? He said, well, I'm going to will it to my grandson. I said, you can't do that. And he said, why? I said, well, first off, who's your partner in this? He said, what do you mean? There's my name. It's mine. I said, no, you have a partner. It's called Uncle Sam. And they're going to take at least 40%. So that $1 million, now you're down to $600,000. So I didn't realize that. I said, what about required minimum distribution? This was back in 2017. I said, if you don't take what the government tells you to take, it is a 50% penalty plus all the taxes. You're going to have less than 5% of your money. And his eyes got real big. He said, well, what are we going to do? I said, we're going to pay taxes on it. Well, I don't want to pay taxes. Well, nobody wants to pay taxes. But what we did, we set it up to take $200,000 a year out for 5 years. The last year, it could be a little bit less, a little bit more, depends on how the market did. But now we turned all that money into tax-free distributions, and they're all tax deferred. So now you can, there's no, because of the Secure Act, that money, when you would pass away, would have to be spent in a 10-year period unless your spouse was alive or a disabled person could take over. But now it has to be spent in a 10-year period and taxed at your beneficiary's tax rates, not yours. But now I want you to think about this. I said it's going to go tax deferred, tax free during your lifetime, tax deferred, tax free during your son's lifetime, and tax deferred, tax free, and does not affect the taxation of Social Security or means testing Medicare Part B, your grandchild's lifetime. And when he starts to take it out, if he handles it properly, this is not just, beneficial for him. It's generational income. And he said, man, let's get this done now. So, this is just a few of the strategies that I show people what they can do to improve their life and have a secure, you've got to have guaranteed income in retirement. And it's been proven by a Harvard study, Daniel, that people with guaranteed income, such as cash value life insurance, fixed and fixed indexed annuities, have a less stressful, happier, healthier, and longer life because they don't have to worry about the stress of the market going up and down. But that's basically what I do in a nutshell. But I want to educate people about it. Like I said, I'm very, very passionate about what I do.
Yeah, no, I can see that now. Is there a project or something that you're working on right now? You mentioned that you've written several books. Is there something that you're specifically working on right now?
Well, I'm thinking about doing another book on the Big Beautiful Bill, but I don't have time right now. I got a lot of things, a lot of the new tax strategies coming out from the Big Beautiful Bill, and that's what my group is getting prepared for in 2026. And we got clients lined up for these tax strategies. But I don't care if you make $50,000 a year, you make $5 million a year. I'm here to help you.
Now, what do you wish that you had known earlier in your journey? And it's been quite a journey that you have gone on that you now help with, help your clients to avoid?
I wish I'd have known the value of cash value life insurance whether it's whole life or index universal life, when it's properly constructed. I would have started this. I didn't start my policy. I had term life insurance. I didn't start my policies, my cash value policies, until I was 58. Now, understand this. They're all paid for. In fact, my wife was a contracted officer for Special Warfare Center at Fort Bragg here in North Carolina. And I turned her thrift savings plan into a cash value life insurance policy. I paid the taxes on it. Now, our policies, our 5 index policies, are paid for. Now, I'm 72, like I said. 2 years ago, we could have taken over $100,000 a year out of tax-free money for the rest of our lives. It could be 85, it could be 140. But I use very, very conservative estimates on my indexing strategies. But our death benefits in the millions of dollars that we can use for our long-term care protection or leave a legacy for our family, and it just continues to grow. But that's what I wish I'd known years and years and years sooner. But it doesn't cost. I mean, just like one of my first death claims, it's really sad. He was an oral surgeon down in Texas. He was a referral of mine, and we did a couple conversations. And then I asked him about what's his biggest expense. He said, "Well, my wife, my business." I said, "No, your biggest expense is taxes." He said, "Yeah, you're right. I got to pay $360,000 in taxes this year." So I conferred with my team, and I said, "Well, listen, how would you like to have a tax deduction of $250,000 this year for 10 years, and then $350,000 for 10 years after that? Good tax strategy." He says, "Yeah, how are we going to do that?" That's, well, it's not how we're going to do it. It's who I know that knows how to do that. So what we did, we give him that $250,000 tax deduction, and he's going to contribute units, not financial assets, to a donor advised fund, which is a charity of his choice. So he's going to get an 80% tax deduction. Well, his tax rate's 40%, so he's saving $80,000 a year. So we took that $80,000 and bought $8 million of life insurance, premium finance life insurance, between him and his wife. And they had a baby a year later. And I asked the guy, I said, "Do you have money for 529 plan, the government plan for education?" "Yeah, we want to do that." I said, "Can you afford $1,000 a month?" He said, "Yeah, if I can't, my dad can." I said, "How much money are you going to need for school, for college?" He said, $300,000. I said, "Okay, put money in this policy for 22 years. The 9th year, take out $60,000 for 5 years. That's your $300,000. You don't have to pay it back." Her death benefit starts out at more than $1 million. Okay, the babies. I said, by the time she's 40, she can take $100,000 out, just as an example, the down payment on the house or whatever. But by the time she's 60, her death benefit is almost $10 million, and her tax-free income that she can get for the rest of her life is over $400,000. And guess what? He was murdered. Very sad. And the person that murdered him was his wife.
Oh, wow.
And he didn't set up the baby as the contingent beneficiary, which I told him to do, and he didn't do it. So now I guess his parents had taken over, taking care of the child, and we got everything taken care of, but it was put in probate for a while. Yeah. But his family, his mother and father, had to account for every dime they spent on that baby. So people need to plan. Yeah. Because it's like, the average couple making $75,000 to $100,000 a year got, just like I said, that one 42-year-old dies in a driveway at 42 of a heart attack. What if both family or both parents are in a car accident and both killed? What's going to happen to their children? People need to plan for this. It's kind of gruesome. People need to make plans for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when these things happen. Listen, as we're closing into this interview, I've got these 4 rapid questions that I always ask everybody. What's a favorite book that really shaped your thinking?
Well, one of them is Power of Positive Thinking and the 7 Habits of Effective People.
Yeah, those are great books. Is there a morning routine or a habit that you can't live without?
Is there what?
Is there a morning routine or a habit that you can't live without?
Well, I probably could work out less because I get up and work out every day, and but I'm pretty regimented in what I do because I guess military trained me. Yeah. And I treat my my business just like my military training. I read one manual in there that was a helicopter I was flying, and I knew every nut, every bolt, stability augmentation system, flight path stabilization system, emergency procedures, limitations for that particular helicopter. And I've had many emergencies, Daniel, but I got that helicopter down without loss of life or loss of equipment. And I've got over 2,000 hours of night vision goggle time. That pucker factor goes way up. And I create or emphasize the same skill and empathy level. What I did in the Army, it's what I do now. I probably read 4 to 5 books a month. I go to attend seminars all the time. It's constant education. And that's what people have to have. They have to have the right education and the right advice to secure a secure retirement, a healthy retirement.
Is there a bucket list that you haven't done yet?
Oh, there's a lot of bucket lists. I want to go to Dubai. I want to be there for about 2 weeks, just looking around and exploring things. I want to go on a Rhine River cruise. I want to go Alaskan cruise. I want to go a cross-country train trip with my wife. These are things that we're going to do one of these days. I don't know when it's going to be done, and I want to get my college kids, my kids' grandkids' colleges all paid for. And in fact, out of those 8 policies, 2 of the policies are whole life policies for my granddaughters for their college education. And college education is very expensive, and the best college funding vehicle, without a doubt, is a properly constructed cash value life insurance policy, whether it's indexed or universal life policy. It beats the 529 plan all to pieces because, first off, there's many limitations in the 529 plan. You're exposed to all market risk, and I'll give you a perfect example. Let's say you've got twins going to college in 2009. Well, 2008 happened, and you had $100,000 in that 529 plan. Now you're down to $50,000. Your whole plans have changed now. And like I said, we didn't get back till the fall of 2015 to get back to where it was before in 2008.
Yeah. Now, is there a surprising hobby or interest that really recharges you? Yeah.
I play golf.
Golf. Excellent.
Yeah, I play golf probably 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Now, I've got this one last question that I always ask. Fast forward to the end of your life. Imagine that everyone basically forgot everything that you ever taught them or you showed them, but they do have the opportunity to remember this one last message from you. What is that one thing that you want them to know?
Always keep learning. Never stop learning.
And I always tell people, when you stop learning, that means you're dead. So yeah, we never stop learning. So that's a great one. Listen, wow, what a great and powerful conversation, Alan. Thank you for sharing your journey. Where can people find out more about you and the work that you do?
Okay, well, you can call me anytime at 951-551-1046. You can go to my website, which is www.strategicwealthstrategies.com. You can sign up for a meeting with me. Like I said, I don't charge my consultations, but I have a plethora of information on that website. I've got probably over 500 videos. I have a YouTube channel. Just go YouTube Alan Porter. There's hundreds of movies on there, anywhere from 29 seconds to 14 minutes long. I've got podcasts on there, just like what we're doing right now. I've been seen on Spotify, iHeartRadio, plus all the other things with all the major networks. But I've got monthly newsletters in there. I got just all kinds of information that would be helpful for people. And these short videos, they're to the point. And when somebody sees this, I got one that's called Retire Like a Millionaire. And I explain that $1 million, putting it in a fixed indexed annuity, and getting guaranteed income in a matter of about 4 minutes. But I got, a PowerPoint that shows the exact way to do that. But, just give me a call. I'm here to help you out.
Oh, that's perfect. So if you're listening, be sure to check out Alan's website and get all of the resources that he has on there. Alan, thank you again for your time and for your message. And remember, making life less taxing isn't just about money. It's about freedom, clarity, and purpose. Keep building wealth, keep protecting your legacy, and keep living the untaxable lifestyle. We'll see you next time on the Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Thank you so much, Alan.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Be sure to check out our other top advisor interviews at MakeLifeLessTaxingPodcast.com.